Welcome back, guys, to another review, this time for Disney's latest live-action remake being released on July 19th, The Lion King. Tell me your thoughts in those comments below. What did you think of this movie, if it's something that met your expectations, or if you didn't think this movie was even necessary to be made in the first place? I know this probably polarized a lot of audience members. I know it did with critics. If you've seen on Rotten Tomatoes, it's at like 58% right now. So they're kind of divided. But tell me your thoughts below, and don't forget, consider clicking on that subscribe button and that bell in order to hear any more future content from me for your future enjoyment. The Lion King is directed and produced by Jon Favreau, who also gave us the live-action version of The Jungle Book. It is a photorealistic computer animated remake of the 1994 animated classic. The film stars the voice talents of Donald Glover, Seth Rogen, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Alfre Woodard, Billy Eichner, John Connie, John Oliver, Beyonce Knowles Carter, and as well as James Earl Jones reprising his role as Mufasa from the original film. Now, for the most part, everyone's familiar with this story, but in case you aren't, the story follows Simba, a young lion who must embrace his role as the rightful king of his native land following the murder of his father Mufasa at the hands of his uncle Scar. On his journey, he meets many other friends and is eventually pointed in the direction where he's meant to go, and that is to go back to Pride Rock to claim his throne as the rightful king. So 2019 has been a big year for Disney in regards to its remakes. We've had Dumbo, Aladdin, now The Lion King. And more or less, I feel some of them have been successful. Some of them, I hate to say it, have been duds. And I think Disney's learning what to do and what not to do when recreating these animated classic movies that we've all grown up with. I feel that there are three groups we're talking about here. One is the group that does not want these remakes to happen. They feel that these remakes are tarnishing the originals. You have another group that go to these movies for the nostalgia of it. They love them so much, they want to go to the screen. They don't care if it's a remake. They want to feel that childhood feeling that they experienced when they were a kid watching the original one. And then you have the other group that I feel that they want to see this movie just to see what Disney can do, or any other studio for that matter, can do with a remake and how they can maybe steer it in another direction and make it even more exciting. I was looking forward to this film. I was anticipating it out of all the live action remakes. And knowing that Jon Favreau directed it, he did The Jungle Book, so I had high hopes to see what he would do with The Lion King. First, as usual, I like to talk about the cast. And here we have many talented actors recreating these voices from the original. Now, I'm not going to talk about every single one of them, but I will mention the ones that stuck out to me the most positively and negatively. One actor that I was actually really surprised about was Donald Glover as Simba. I wasn't expecting to like the voice talent that he provided for Simba in this movie. Originally it was Matthew Broderick, so you have two different actors, but this guy brought a sense of the original, but also made it his own. And he still had that presence of what Simba's all about, the grown-up version, where he's a little bit immature at the beginning, and you can sense that in his tone, and he eventually is going back to Pride Rock to fight Scar, and he has that aggression in him towards the end. I was just really happy with him and his performance as Simba. And the other two that come to mind are Zazu, portrayed by John Oliver. He was an actor that I actually thought he fit the role of Zazu quite well. Originally it was Rowan Atkinson, and I like Rowan Atkinson more as Zazu, but he did an appropriate job for the most. I didn't find him annoying, at least with his voice of Zazu. I found it actually kind of funny. And then you have Seth Rogen. I think he is the one I like the most, and even before I saw this movie, when they announced the entire cast, I thought he was perfect as Pumbaa, and I was right. Even when he laughs, it sounded like Seth Rogen, but it also sounded like Pumbaa. And I just thought that was probably perfect casting decisions in regards to recreating a voice for any Disney movie. But I think those are my three favorites out of all the actors that we've seen in this film. Now, pertaining to the part of the cast that I didn't like, that's something I will mention my negatives. As far as the animation and the technology involved in this film, that was something I was really impressed by, and probably the highest praise I have for this movie. Really, what made it work was the CGI. And we've seen this before in The Jungle Book, and it was the same type of visual effects, which was just as impressive. But what makes these two movies different is that in The Jungle Book, you had Mowgli. You still had a human presence that still gave you that sense of realism. Here we have nothing but animals, so they're working from scratch to recreate this world from CGI, so they had a lot more to work with. But I have to say the end result of this was really convincing. It felt like I was watching a Disney nature documentary. That's how real it felt, other than the fact that these animals are talking. But everything from the fur and whiskers on the lions, to seeing Timon and Pumbaa, the hyenas, even the landscapes, the grass, the sky, Pride Rock, everything just felt so real. And even going as far back as just talking about the opening shots of this movie, which is A Circle of Life, yes, most of it is shot by shot, but it still feels real. It gives you a different sense. You're feeling a different vibe versus the original film. And this is something that kind of goes hand in hand with my negatives. But in regards to the positives, seeing this realistic approach made it work for this type of movie, but just in a different way. I did say the score and the musical numbers were a plus for me. I actually find it between a plus and a negative. It's kind of right there in the middle. I do like what they did in recreating the musical numbers and the score, but the 94 version is really where that tone and emotion is. Hans Zimmer was the composer of both films, so when he recreated it, it still sounded the same. But if you know the music as much as I do, you can still sense a difference in the tone and just the emotion of it all. As far as the musical numbers are concerned, I'm kind of half and half on this. What I did like was Circle of Life and Hakuna Matata. I felt both kind of sounded a bit different, but they didn't deviate too far from the original, and I still felt the emotion in Circle of Life. The Hakuna Matata song, I still felt a bit of the fun, a bit of the comedy, and I thought Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner were a really good pair to recreate this song. Now, I'm not saying the rest of the songs deviated very far from the original songs, but I just had a few problems with them. Unfortunately, there are a few negatives I have for this film, and that's sad to say, being that it's The Lion King, even though it's a remake. And I did mention the cast, there are certain actors that didn't really fit the characters they were portraying. And the first one is our villain Scar, portrayed by, I know I'm going to mispronounce his name, but it's Chiwetel Ejiofor. You all know who I'm talking about. He is a superb actor. I've seen him in many movies, and I was expecting him to be really good, and he wasn't horrible, but Jeremy Irons is the one who originated the role of Scar in the 94 version. I don't mean to compare the two, but this guy did a superb job in doing the villain of Scar that it ended up being one of the best villains of the 90s era for Disney movies. And once you have a villain that good, it's tough to really top that type of voice. And though he did an alright job, I still didn't feel threatened by his character. And this goes along with his rendition of Be Prepared, which I will talk about when I talk about the songs, but it was kind of a letdown, and it just didn't feel like a good villain, kind of like how I felt with Jafar in the Aladdin remake. I just feel like they're really watering down these villains for these remakes. The other two actors I didn't think were the best fit were Beyonce as Nala and Billy Eichner as Timon. Once again, they just weren't convincing. Though Nala had a small role, she has a bigger role in this film, but every time I saw her and heard her voice, I just saw Beyonce. I didn't really see Nala. And that goes with the Can You Feel the Love Tonight song. And that's once again something I'll get into with the songs I didn't like. And with Billy Eichner, he was portraying Timon. Once again, I didn't see it. Nathan Lane was the one who originated that role, just like with Jeremy Irons. So it was tough for an actor to really fill the shoes of such a iconic voice and character. It just didn't feel the same in regards to these three characters. They are all talented actors. It just really wasn't gelling with me in the end. I'll just quickly talk about the songs I didn't like, and that's with Beyonce singing Can You Feel the Love Tonight and Chiwetel Ejiofor singing Be Prepared. These songs, they either felt too short or they didn't feel like the original. Be Prepared was just remarkably short, and it only felt like 2 minutes, and he wasn't really singing. He was kind of talking most of the time. So it didn't really feel the same. It felt like they took one of the villain's greatest songs out of all the Disney movies and they just kind of threw it away a bit. And then with Beyonce singing Can You Feel the Love Night with Donald Glover, it kind of felt more like Beyonce's song. It didn't really feel like a duet between them both. So they just didn't really feel the same. Once again, they didn't sound horrible. It just felt kind of off for me. This is the last and probably biggest issue I had with this movie, and this is going back to a positive I had about it. The technology and visual effects, they look great, but there was a downfall. We lost a lot of the emotion and expressions that we had in the first movie. We are now working with real animals that are being recreated from CGI, and they cannot have all these expressions that they had in the first film without them looking ridiculous. So in the end, we really lose a lot of the depth and emotion from key scenes that were so memorable, such as Mufasa's death, or when Simba's finally taking his place as king towards the end of the movie. It didn't feel the same because we don't have these expressions that we're so used to seeing on the faces from the original film, because now we're looking at actual animals. So even though this movie is visually pleasing to the eye, it still didn't convey to me the same emotions that I felt towards the first movie. And I apologize that I keep comparing the original to the remake, but I can't help it, and I'll just put it this way. If this movie was an original film, not based on any other film, the '94 movie never existed, I would still probably feel the same, because you have a talented voice cast conveying such emotion in the script, and you have these animals being recreated to talk out these words with no expression. I would probably still feel the same in the end. So with all that said and done, I had a fun time watching this. It's not Disney's best remake by all means. I do think ones like Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, and even Aladdin were more enjoyable, but it was a fun time at the movies. It just didn't live up to par with the original. I have to give this movie a 7 out of 10 with how much fun I had with it and with the visual effects, and some of the cast did a great job. But once again, guys, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this movie? And if you're looking forward to the next remake coming along next year, Mulan, that's one I'm actually really looking forward to. Tell me your thoughts on that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give it a like if you liked my review. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to hear more reviews from me. Y'all have a great day. I'll see you later.